Okay, so we've got a nice fresh dog now ready for trimming to finish the groom off today. Okay, so we're going to start at the head end. Okay, so we're looking for a clean face on a cocker. So we're looking to take the whiskers off. So scissor those whiskers off. Just tidy around the outline of the lips with the scissors. For a nice, smooth, clean face. If she was a golden or black and tan or orange roan, I would be very careful that I wouldn't snip into the hair, and I would only get the tan, get the whiskers rather, and not get any of the tan, because it would just discolour the tan colour. But she's dark blue roan, so we're just going to snip away the whiskers. Don't be too concerned if you get some of the hair in it as well. Just tidy around the outline of the lips. Give her a nice smooth face, nice clean muzzle. Okay, then we're just going to take the tops of those long eyebrow hairs off. And then some of the eyelashes will grow really, really long, so I just gently tip them just to about ½ an inch long. You don't want them any longer than that, really. They can get ridiculously long. Okay, and then where we pre-clipped her earlier. Okay, so from the chin right down to the breastbone, I'm just going to blend in the sides now of my clipper work to where I stripped. Pull the ear back there. You see this, you don't want anything overhanging. So we just want to clean that off. When you're using your thinning shears, you don't want to keep coming and going. Try to keep them against the dog and just work your way down, just opening and closing. And up and down. We're just blending that line in to soften it there. Just down to the point of shoulder there, which is that bone just there. Just keep brushing that hair down to see where you're up to with it. Okay. Then we're going to put her shoulder in a forehand angulation. Stand up. So you want your dog stood in the correct position from the point of shoulder to the top of the forearm. So that's that fraction there. We're going to cut that in to show off that upper arm. Again, just blending any overhanging hair into the top of the foreleg. It's always a bit of a tricky area here. You really need to go very, very close there. We're leaving the bib of hair on in the centre, which we're going to shape in a moment. We're just going to keep snipping the way here to get that really clean line. Okay. We'll tidy this area up later on by hand pulling it. Okay. So that's your shot. We're looking for a moderate angle. She really doesn't have a good upper arm. It's a little bit short, the bone's a bit short there. She's a bit short in neck as well, but we still want to show off that area there. We don't want it covered up. So with a Cocker Spaniel, we're looking for a square. It's a square dog, so the square dog from the withers to the root of the tail down to the ground, and here this is encompassing your square. So we want to keep them nice and tight here and nice and tight here. Too much hair here and too much hair here makes the dog look a lot longer. Stand still, good girl. Okay, and then we're going to turn around and just do the same on the other side. So again, starting at the top, underneath the ear. We're just going to blend that line in. Anything that overhangs, just blending our clipped to stripped work. Just softens that area and bridges the gap. Looking for that smoother transition. Okay. Just gives you a softer finish using the blenders. And again, we're going to just do the upper arm again. From the pointer shoulder to the top of the foreleg. Just cleaning that area out there. Just come into the top of the foreleg to give that angulation. And then the rest beyond there is hand stripped. Just look for any surplus bits of hair sticking out, just to tidy. It's quite a tender area here, so you wouldn't hand strip. Okay, and that's that bit done. Just turn around, Zara, so we can have a look at it. Nice clean finish there. All the way down. Okay. Right, we're going to move on down now to the feet. Okay, so we're going to get down to doing the feet now. So the hair is nice and dry and straight. Just going to get the finishing comb. Okay, so we're looking for a nice cat-like foot in a Cocker Spaniel. So nice and rounded, well knit. Good girl, stay there. Okay, so stand your dog in the correct position with the leg straight and find your foot. And we want to snip. It's a really close cut, the cat-like foot. Don't leave too much coat on. Come around the front. Around the other side, turn around a bit, good girl, there we go, stand up. Be really careful that you don't lean your scissors in at this point. On some of the lighter colours you will have a natural pastern which is very smooth there and close coated naturally, and it's really hard to disguise big feet if you have that close coated pastern. On the darker blues and blacks we tend to have a bit more coat there, so you can pad that area out and bring it forward, and it'll make your foot look a little bit neater and smaller. So if you've got hair to play with, it's better, but on like an orange roan, orange and white, black and white, you generally have very close, black and tans too, sometimes you just don't have the coat there. So just pick the foot up and just look that there's no bits sticking out anywhere. So remember, we're looking for this nice cat-like foot, so a nice closed foot. So keep the foot closed together, and we don't want to be digging beneath the toes here. We don't want to open it up. We don't want a hare foot, we don't want a spoon foot. We're looking for a nice cat foot. So nicely padded, chunky little rounded foot, resembling a cat foot. So cat-like in appearance is what the breed standard calls for. So I'm going to bring that up, almost like it looks a bit layered. Snip around, just keep combing. You can really perfect your feet when you get on top of them. When you're trimming feet that are really overgrown, it's quite hard to get a good finish. But if you're doing them regularly because you're showing the dog on a weekly basis or you're grooming on a weekly basis, you can really get the feet in good shape and get them looking really, really nice. So make sure you get right around both sides of those feet. And as I say, don't lean the scissor in on that angle and cut, because you're going to take all this hair off in this area here, which would make those toes exposed and look longer and a lot flatter. So we're looking to stack this foot up so it looks really neat and compact, and that's that cat-like appearance that we're looking for. I've seen some people use white paper, stand still, to stand the foot on, especially a dark foot, so they can see any little bits sticking off. But it's not so bad with this grey tabletop. Just check that. We can go over all this later on. And then we can pull anything down that overhangs that back pad there, which is here, all this surplus coat. We don't need that. We can just take that off. So anything that sticks on the ground, we want to snip it off. Good girl, stay. If you want to, if you've got no confidence with the straight scissors, you can use your thinners or your blenders just to soften that foot ever so slightly, just to get a nicer transition into the leg, just to soften it, if you feel it necessary. Okay, and that's one foot done already. We just compare the 2 feet now. We've got our trimmed foot and we've got our hairy foot. So we shall do the same now to the other foot. But I'm going to do the rear foot first. So I'm going to do one side first and the other side to follow. So get to the rear foot. Again, it's the same process. You want the dog standing in the correct position. Okay, so I always run the scissors down and feel for where the foot is, and then put your first cut in and go right the way around the foot, clearing the hair as you go. You can just lift that foot ever so gently just to get those bits. Bring around to the camera. Just move that hair out the way, foot in correct position again, and around we go. Again, the same process as the 4-foot. We don't want to lean the scissors in or take too much coat like that, otherwise we would take too much away. We really want to stack it up and take it nice and tight and get that cat-like appearance again. Those dogs that are close coated on the fore pastern can also be close coated on the rear pastern as well. And if you've got that, it does expose that foot and you don't have a lot to hide. So if you have got big feet, it's very, very tricky. You can't put hair on, you just have to do your best with what you've got. Okay, so we're just going to look at that from the rear to make sure we've got all sides covered. I'm going to pick that foot up now and just check for anything, and like we did the 4-foot, I'm going to pull anything over the back of the pad there. Anything surplus, we're just going to snip it off. We don't want anything hanging on the ground. Cockers really are like mops, they do soak up a lot of the wet, so as clean a foot as possible. Will stay dry for longer. So there we have the 4-foot and back foot trimmed. Okay, and we're going to do the same on the other 2 now, on the right hand side. Good girl, turn around. So just turn around. I always like to cut clean feet, so well groomed clean feet that have got no tats between the toes. So whilst we did pad her earlier before the bath, I would never sort of trim the feet on top before the bath. I always like to do this when the foot is completely clean. Just gets a much better finish. Make sure you go right away around keep clearing your hair so you can see where you're going. Right the way around. Good girl, stand. You really have to get down and look what you're doing. We're looking for that cat-like appearance again. Going right the way around that foot. Let's get that nice, neat finish. And then we just lift up. Just make sure there's no bits overhanging now. Just a quick blow will lift any hair up there. Okay. We want to clean over that pad there. Okay, just put a bit of a finish on that. And again, if you want to just tidy it up with your blenders, you can do. Don't always do this, it's not always necessary, but some feet that are hard to trim or get a finish on, it just helps sometimes to just put the blenders around them just to soften any edges off. Right, then we're going to do the same to the rear. Again, keeping the hair out of the way. Foot in correct position, find where your foot is with your scissors, and then first snip and then follow it all the way around. All the way around. Anything overhanging the back. Just make sure, comb, just lift the foot gently, just comb it out, make sure there's nothing overhanging, and around we go again, and build up that nice cat-like foot. And there we have our feet. Right, so we're just going to have a look at her ears again now. So we did pre-do the ears before the bath, so I just taken out the hair all around the opening here so she can get that airflow down, and we lowered her from the top third of the ear. But I just want to check it and just blend any hair in with my blenders now, because we did that with the trimmer earlier. So as I said, on an orange roan or red or golden, you might want to hand strip the back of the ear. So I would comb and band the back of the ear if that was the case, and try and remove the surplus, and then just pluck out the hair on the ear. It will just keep better colour. But we're looking for that lovely low set ear on level with the corner of the eye. Okay, so the level with the corner of the eye, that lovely low set ear, it gives that lovely soft expression. Okay, any surplus hair, just pull that away. All right, now the ear, the leather, about cutting the end of the ear, what I do is the point of reference is if it hangs past the point of shoulder, I tend to trim it. But what we want to do is everything about this breed should be natural, as we said earlier. So we want to follow the dog's natural pattern. Okay, so the ear leather is lobular, so it's shaped like almost like horseshoe. It's rounded, it's not squared off. Nothing about this dog is square. There's no hard lines, it should just look like it's not been cut. Okay, so if it hangs below the point of shoulder, which is that bone there, it can almost cover up the upper forearm, which you've already trimmed in nice and tight to show that upper forearm off, which we did earlier here, like so. So if that hair hangs down past there, it can cover the dog in, and it makes the dog look longer in front and lower stationed. So we're looking to elevate the dog a little bit, so we don't want anything hanging past. They don't generally grow past the point of shoulder, but some do if they're not kept in check. So it's just a case of checking it. So but you can also just tidy up the baby ends anyhow. So stand now, good girl. So when we do this, I'm going to use a curved scissor, so we can just go around, just taking the baby ends off just to tidy it up. It's just adjusting really. As I say, some need more off than others. Just comb that down. Put the ear in the correct position like it would be, and just go around it, like so. Okay, and that's your ear done. Right, then we're going to go into the forechest. So we're looking for good lung and heart room. We're looking for a good, well-developed forechest in a Cocker Spaniel. So we don't want to square or flatten this area off here. So from the breast, it's clipped down to the breastbone, and then we've got our hair that hangs between both front legs. Okay, we don't want it on the floor, but we want to look for that shape so it's nice and rounded. So we hold the dog up in the correct position, and we just tip in this hair here and following in a nice pattern. Round, stay, Zara. Just make sure she's stood up in the correct position and follow that round to in between her front legs. And then if we bring her round, we're looking for a nice level top line in a Cocker Spaniel, and the underline, they should be deep at the brisket, but they should have a good tuck up, so shouldn't be too fat underneath. So they're not two parallel lines, so we've got a nice straight level back line, deep depth at the brisket, but we should have a tuck up, so you know, natural rise. So we want to follow this pattern again, and we don't want to make it look like it's been cut really, so it's just a case of using your straight scissors, and we're just putting a finish on it. So bring our leg up forward, and we're continuing from our chest hair, and we're just going to put a finish on it, and it's very, very subtle. Stay, good girl. A very subtle, gentle rise up towards the tuck up, the loin area. It's just a very subtle, slight incline up, which then leads us on to our rear end. Oh, I forgot to mention the foreleg. She's getting tired now, not wanting to stand. Good girl, stand up. So because the dog is square, we don't want to open this area up too much here. We want to just tip, very gently tip. You very rarely have to take anything off the back of the foreleg, but if you do, it's just a gentle tip of the scissors just to put a finish on it. Okay, and then we're going to get to the rear end. So like we did at the front end, we want this area under the tail really nice and short, so you can do it with the trimmers or the scissors, but I always trim around the anus really tight and trim over the tail as though it was docked there initially, so it separates that tail from that hair underneath. And we're looking to get this area nice and flat here, so when you see the dog in profile, we don't want anything sticking out here. It'll just make that dog look long in body. So we just turn around. The rosettes here, or where the hair pattern will go into a little swirl, is normally the point of reference for trimming that too. You want it as close as you can get it under here. It's hygienic as well as neat and tidy. We don't want anything sticking out. So like we did in the front end, if we trim it really close, we can just blend in the side areas with our blenders to soften it. So we're just blending the short bit to the stripped bit. Same on the other side. Looking to get that nice and flat. Just sits above the vulva on a female. Same with the males, just sits above the testes, but we want it covering up her modesty. And the hair in between the back legs will form a V shape. We're just tidying these ends up. So from the hock joint, which is there, we're just going to go up, just take the baby ends off. She's not overly coated really, this one. Stay, Zara. No, you're not having a cuddle from the cameraman. And the same on the other side, just make sure she's stood in the correct position. Okay. And there we are. And then we just turn her back round. By removing all that hair that's sticking out here now, we can see how we've got our square dog shape coming into play now. When we stand her up, we've got nice front end, nice and flat, as the back end is nice and flat. And we've got our front end angulation in, and we're going to now start trying to put the rear end angulation in. So Cocker should have a really, really wide thigh. First, it should be well developed first and second thigh, very broad in the rear quarters. So there's a lot of dog here, you know. You should be able to feel a lot of substance, a lot of meat, well muscled rear end. Okay, so the widest point really wants to be across the top thigh, and then you've got a well developed second thigh, so we don't want to take too much. This is where you want the depth of coat here, in this area here. So this is called the stifle joint. Okay, so if we pull that hair back, we're looking for a good bend or sweep of stifle. Well let down behind is what the breed standard asks for, with a good bend of stifle. Wide quarters, well muscled, with a good bend of stifle. So normally I use my curved scissors on this area here. So if your dog is quite straight in the back leg, there's a lot of things you can do with your scissors and sculpting of hair that can make them look better angulated. So we're looking for, you know, a Cocker Spaniel should have those moderate angles. It shouldn't be excessive, but some dogs are a little bit straight or don't have that quality that they should have. So we can use the hair to our advantage and really trim that shape in this area here. So we always want to keep the depth and the widest point here. So where I am now with my comb, that's where we want the hair to be at its longest, really. Okay. If your dog is straight in the rear, you want to always leave quite a lot of hair on the hock. Okay. So what we want to do now, we're following the dog's natural outline here, and which this shape here is curved. Good bend of stifle, a good sweep in that stifle. So we're following that line, that dog's structure anatomy. If they haven't got it, we're going to cut it in a little bit sharper with the scissors. So it helps to use a curved scissor here in this area. So stand your dog in the correct position. It sometimes helps as well if you use a mirror. So you can look back in a mirror as you're trimming the dog and you can see exactly what's going on. Okay, so she's stood in the correct position. So I'm going to ignore the hair sort of up here, but I'm going to trim this right around and really carve it round. So we're not doing a straight cut. That's a big mistake here. So if I was just to put the scissors in and go straight down, I'm just going to put the wrong angle in on that rear. So we really want to give that good bend or good sweep of stifle. Right the way around. Okay. Good girl. And then we come to the rear, the hock area. Right, what we don't want to do here is take too much. You stand there now. Using our small straight scissors now, we pull our leg back, make sure we comb this out here. Now we're going to trim down on the outside, because what we don't want is anything sticking out. Okay, so when you view the dog from the rear, we want it to be nice and flat. So if I just turn around and show you that. So we're looking for this nice, we've done all our hand stripping and we want it just to flow and be nice and flat. Okay, so we don't want it sticking out here, because when the dog's moving away, it would look like it's bow-legged. So we're looking to get a nice parallel lines. So trim that hock down into the foot. Bearing in mind we're looking for, this is a dog of good bone and good substance. We're not looking for it to make it look flat or weak in bone. We want the dog to look like it's got some substance, so we're not taking it right down to the wood. If the dog did have coarse bone or heavy bone, you could afford to take it that bit shorter. But if they're quite medium boned, you can just gently scissor over it, blending down into your foot with the straight scissors. If you're not confident with your straights, again, you can always just use your blender to soften those edges off. So I'm not trimming it right down close. We want it to look nice and natural. But we're looking to make it look very straight and neat, okay? It's not an area where you want to see weakness. So if you're cow hocked or tipping in, you have to accommodate that by scissoring it. So if your dog is leaning in on the hock joints, you might want to trim them a bit tighter here and leave some hair down here to try and correct it and straighten it up. So you have to bear in mind what your dog's anatomy is like when you're trimming them. You have to work with what you've got and do your best to correct any faults your dog might have to get the best finished results. Okay, and then if we turn around, we can do the same on the other side now. So just bring that chest hair forward again, and we're just going to reach for those curved scissors. Dog in the correct position. We're just going to check for any bits and ends on this side. Okay, so we're just going to do her underline now, this right side. So we have level top line in cockers, so we're looking for a level back line. But your underline, you don't want a straight line on your underline either, because what will happen is it'll just make the dog look a bit heavy and a bit fat. So we're looking, if we just pick her leg up here, we just want the baby ends. We want to see some daylight underneath the dog. You don't want it to be two parallel lines, so flat line on top, but we just want to take up gently. It's very, very subtle. So deep at the brisket and then just gently upwards to the tuck up there and your underline, which brings you into your rear end. So cockers should have that lovely good first and second thigh with well bent stifles, but everything in moderation. So nicely angulated behind. So we want to keep the hair on her rear pastern here below the hock joint. If we want to get a nice sweep up end of stifle, if your dog does lack in this area here, your widest point should be this hair that's here, just along here. So we want that bit to be the widest point, and then we can really exaggerate that and tip it up. She's not got the best rear angulation. So we're just going to go around. Come up quite hard here, sweeping it around. So we're following the outline of the dog's anatomy, a good bend and sweep of stifle. So I'm using the curved scissors on this area here to really accentuate this area, curve it up. And then that brings us into the hock area. Comb all that area out. So we're looking for a nice flat, everything should just flow down here. We don't want anything sticking out off the rear of the leg. So when it's viewed from the rear, this side nice and flat, okay, all the way down. So we want to do the same on this hock now. So starting on the inside, just trim down. The dog should have good bone and substance. It can often be quite wavy or curly and springy here. The more the hair's cut there, the more dense it gets. So we're looking for good bone and substance. Keep clearing your hair so you can see where you're going. stand over your dog and trim straight down in a straight line. Don't lean your scissors in, and we're blending it into that foot that we trimmed in earlier. Looking for good bone and substance, so we're not taking it right to the bone. If the dog's got good, if it's coarse boned or heavy boned, feel for the quality of the dog's bone. And if they are coarse boned or heavy boned, you can take it that little bit tighter. But if they lack bone, you can leave a bit more hair on to give the appearance that the dog has more substance. You never want to take it too flat on this area here. If your dog's over angulated, then you can afford to take more hair off. Okay. Just going to tidy this foreleg in as well. So generally just the baby ends. We don't want to take too much away here, because it's just going to open up this area and make the dog look long. But we do want to see some daylight underneath our dog, in between the forelegs, in between the back legs, and underneath. It's not an American. We don't want the coat trailing on the ground. In summer shows I tend to take the hair a little bit tighter up, and in the winter I let it grow a little bit down further when they're at the indoor shows. Often not with showing grass and stuff, so your dog can tend to be lost a lot in the grass. Just check for any bits just by moving around your dog. It's always handy and good to have a mirror in this areas. And just snip away any bits. Okay. Just check all those bits. Then we get to the tail. Just turn around. Zara, come around. Good girl. Come on. Getting sleepy now. Come on. Come on. Good girl. Right, tails are really, optional. Since the docking ban came in, and we've had to leave the tails on our dogs for showing, this is typical of a lot of tails are like this. So the hair just wraps around the tail and grows up towards the sky. So it's really hard to try and make that look flat, silky, like the rest of the dog. Like we've got the hand stripping done on the jacket here, which is lovely and smooth and flat and shiny, and then we get to the tail and it's just totally unkempt and unruly. So breed standard calls for them to be set-alike and hang, so the feathering underneath would be heavy and hang down, and it can be trimmed into a scimitar shape, so you can round it off like that of a retriever or a setter. But unfortunately a lot of the cockers, the coat just grows so curly and wavy and just grows in all directions. So I prefer it really short here, but this is personal preference. Okay, so it's up to you how much hair you take off the tail. Some people take it right down to the bone like a whip. Sometimes that's a little bit too severe. Other people, if the tail was really well feathered and it sat nicely, I would probably tend to leave it. But I always do find the end of my tail and I snip off anything that overhangs, because it should just reach the hock joint, the tail. It shouldn't be trailing any lower than that. But our cockers that are merry in action and bustling movement, the tail is flicking backwards and forwards. It should be merry in action, so it's going hell for leather like this when the dog's in motion. And a lot of the time, if the hair is too long underneath here, it interferes with this hair that's here and picks it up, and then it makes the dog look a lot longer going round the ring if you show your dog. So I like them as nice and neat and tidy under here, but still to get that quality that the dog looks like it's got good bone and substance. So you can use your straight scissors and take off all this hair that's sticking down. Moving on to my blenders here, I just want to blend, looking to make this tail look quite thick, but I don't want anything hanging off or sticking up in the air. So just going to scissor over this tail. If you lift it up, you can see all this wavy hair. So as I say, this is really optional, personal to you, so don't have to follow what I do, but I do it to suit the individual dog. So on this occasion I'm taking it quite short because it will just look, I'll have a better finish, it'll be neater, it'll be tidier. As her tail is one of those that just grows around and coils up towards the sky. Any bits you see that you didn't get earlier, just go over those. Just check this tail. Looking for any bits that stick out now. So I'm just using my fingers to pull them over. Obviously it tapers to a tip at the end. Just pull that forward. Looking for a neat and tidy appearance on this tail. Majority of show dogs I see in spaniels are done like this now, in Springers and Americans and English Cockers. It's just a better finish if you've got that unruly tail. Okay, so that's our tail done. And then we can just check over now our stripped work and just blend everything together. So it's just a case of looking over our dog now. For any bits we can just go through with the banded comb again. Anything that was missed earlier. And then we can just refine the groom with our finger and thumb stripping. We're just looking for all this to blend and flow, so there's nothing sticking out at all. Good girl. Okay, so I'm just finessing the stripping now. She's had her trim done, but we're moving on to a finger and thumb technique now. So you can do the whole dog by finger and thumb, but obviously it would be very hard. When you get them down to this level, this is when you can really go in with your finger and thumb to put a finish on them and finesse your groom. So we're just looking to remove those long hairs by plucking them with finger and thumb. So we use our finger condoms at this point, so they just roll onto over the edge of the fingers, like so, on the thumb and the index finger. And then we're just going to look to just finish off any long hairs that I can see. So the technique here with this stripping is I use my 3 fingers there against the palm of my hand to grab the skin, and then the 2 here are the hair, pinch the hair and lift it up. And as I release the hair, we want to pull little and often. So we're looking to like pluck it. We're plucking the hair in the direction that it grows. So we're always going to follow the natural coat pattern, which we've done throughout the groom. So we're just lifting up now and we're looking to pull down any long hair. Keep brushing it over so you can see where you're going, but there's a little bit here that I want to get at. So this is the bits that your band and comb won't quite get. But as I say, you can do the whole dog in this method if you wish to. So the trick with it is that you pull little hair but often. So don't pull too much at once or big clumps at once, otherwise it might hurt the dog. So you just work your way through and you can see the sort of hair that's coming off. Don't stay in the same area over and over again, just keep working your way through, and then you comb down. And if you just look at the type of hair length that we're getting off there, okay, this is really refining your grooming now. This is the type of stuff that you're doing when you're doing them every week. You know, you're just picking at the hair. It's like gardening or anything like that. You get them down to a nice level and you're maintaining it all the time. You get into a rolling stage of rolling this jacket, keeping it nice and short and smooth. Stay, good girl, stay. just looking for that longer hair. Nice flow of coat. This will give you a lovely, lovely shine. You really are removing the last of the dead hairs. Good girl. There, we just turn around and do the other side. Have a look at that side too. Again, I'm keeping the skin nice and taut. You can really speed your rhythm up at this point. We're getting that lovely, lovely shine now. The hair feels so beautiful, silky, soft, gorgeous texture. It's the only way, in my opinion, to get this gorgeous finish. That a Coat King will never give you. Lovely texture to the coat, silky smooth, soft, flat and gorgeous. So now, keeping on top of this dog now on a weekly, fortnightly basis, you know, she will never grow back to that Yeti she was this morning. And you know, everything's so much quicker. You're just literally going over everything all the time just to get that maintenance on it. And quite a tricky area over the shoulders here. You can often get a lump of fat. They put the weight on very quickly there. So just try and smooth that line out. So just looking for everything to blend and flow into each other. Good girl, stand up. Okay, just a little bit more work to do. Good girl. A kiss, thank you. Good girl. Don't want any lines down here, so just want that to flow into that skirt. You could literally go on all day. Just looking now for bits, anything that's sticking up. Really clean, looking for that lovely clean face. Okay. Thank you for attending my English Cocker Spaniel Masterclass. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative. This is part of a series of grooming masterclasses by me, Mike Wildman. Join us for more live videos soon.